stuck behind this car, take the opportunity to tell you a little bit about this. This is my Lexus ISF. It's a 2009 model. It is my daily. I guess I don't know, I feel super fortunate to have a daily like this, you know, that has a lot of character, and it is fun to drive every single day. It is not far off from being stock or like original. You know, it's got the typical mods that, you know, what I would do and what viewers of this channel would do as well. So it's got obviously an exhaust system, what you may better call a bit of an intake mod, you know, air oil separator or catch tank, and that's pretty much it, like in terms of you know, straight line performance. Otherwise, I've got shock absorbers on the front. Sorry, actually I've got lowering springs on the front only, and just some quality bolt-on hub spaces all around just to get the stance looking a bit right. So when you buy this car from factory, the front end sits high enough that you can fit 3 of your fingers in the gap between the tire and the fender, and the rear you can only maybe fit 1, and the wheels sit in like by 20 to 25 mils. It's kind of like crazy that they would make a car look odd like that. So then what I've done is obviously got the wheels to be pretty flush to the body, and then I've just put lowering springs, Swift, I think, lowering springs on the front to just drop the head down a little bit, to get it to look pretty damn perfect and what it should look like off the factory floor. Exhaust system wise, I've got an X-Force catback. It still has the primary cats in place, and then the X-Force does away with the secondary cats. So the X-Force itself is a pretty good bang for buck catback system. However, in my opinion, it sounded a bit too quiet still, and maybe I'm crazy because I got, like, you know, loud Supra or whatever, but I went ahead and made my own straight pipes from the mufflers back. So where the mufflers are, sorry, basically just, there's a flange, put straight pipes in place, and I think it makes this car sound freaking amazing. Like, it almost sounds like a NASCAR, and it's a little bit drony, or actually it's quite drony at the right RPM or the wrong RPM, whatever you want to call it, and it can be annoying if you're driving a long trip, but around the city and stuff, for me, it doesn't bother me too much. So okay, there's a few corners here, so I'm going to shut my mouth and let the car do the talking. So I've left traction on because it's probably just safer that way. So this engine really likes to be revved to make the power. It's even though it's a 5 litre, it doesn't have huge amounts of torque at the bottom, but Michelin Pilot Sport 4S's all around, so it does grip. You know, the tires probably need a better driver than me, but on the street I'm not going to push it too hard. And this gearbox being an auto, fuck, it's awesome. Like, in terms of when you're going 8/10 or whatever. And brakes are awesome as well. My god, 6-pod calipers up front with 360 or 350. There's people taking photos around, it's sick. was saying, yeah, so 6-pot calipers up front with pretty big rotors, and then like again I think it's 2-pot at the rear, but also pretty large rotors in comparison to like my Supra. My god, it's got huge brakes and it really feels it as well. So yeah, 5-litre V8 naturally aspirated, makes a good sound, makes a great intake. Obviously now you can't really hear the intake too much because of the crazy exhaust noise. 8-speed automatic transmission has like direct shift for above, I think, first gear. So every time you're hammering it and you pull the trigger, it bangs the gears in real nice, and it feels very race inspired, and I think it is race inspired because this car was built at Fuji Speedway by like a team of enthusiasts, really. So a skunks works car as they call it. But yeah, man, I love this car. As a daily, you cannot complain. It is awesome. Yeah, so being a 2009 model, obviously there's a diff. The diff issue, it's an open diff on this particular vehicle. The next year I think they had an LSD, a proper Torsen diff. And the only other gripe on this particular year model, being one of the, you know, the earlier versions, is it has very sort of crashy or stiff ride, stiff shock absorbers, you know, some would say. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't bother me too much. I've got a very stiff Supra, but you know, I think if anything, that's where, you know, a set of quality KW coilovers or MCA coilovers would do this car a lot of justice. So yeah, if I was to try and make this car perfect, it would probably be a good clutchback LSD from like a Kaz, I think, a Kaz 1.5 or whatever, and then also maybe MCA coilovers all round. And I think, man, this car is an awesome car to drive. As you can see through the twisties, it's got heaps of character. It's not like rocket fast, but it's still very quick. You can still get yourself in a lot of trouble. And then there's a straight here, so I'm going to give it a hit and hope that there's no police here. So I'm just going to pull up into a spot here and do a bit of a video on the outside of the car for you guys. And obviously this is not something that you guys are probably very interested in, given that it's a Supra channel, but I thought you might appreciate, given this is a Toyota product as well. Obviously Lexus, Toyota, same shit. Lexus, Toyota teamed up with Yamaha to make this engine, and man, it is the last of the cool naturally aspirated V8s, I think. I mean, you ain't going to get cars like this anymore. I think you know, emission standards and all this bullshit that's coming into the world, you know, are just not going to make it easy for any sort of organization or company to make a high performance naturally aspirated engine. So they're going to have to use forced induction, they're going to have to use hybrid, they're going to have to use you know, all these other methods except for the pure way to do things, which is like this, you know, in an awesome sort of visceral appeal. Listen to the 6th to 5th shift, by the way, guys. It's gonna get a bit of speed here. Oh my god, I don't know if you can hear that in real life. Sorry, in video, but in real life it sounds amazing. And I'm gonna pull over here, do a video for you on the outside, in the way of everybody probably, but who cares. Alright, what's up guys? Here's a video from the outside for you of my Lexus ISF. It's a 2009 model. So basically this is the way it should look, I think, out of the dealership, but unfortunately it's not the way it looks out of the dealership. I'll show you what I mean. So the wheels, if you can see, they are sort of flush with the body. From the factory, the wheel sits in like 2 centimeters, and the front end has this massive gap where you can put your finger in it, which I think is just crazy. So that is the factory spring and shock setup and the factory height, okay? And then this is with a lowering spring. So as you can already see, I mean, I'm probably not parked on level ground, but there's a gap there, and there isn't really a gap at the back. So it just shows that before it was even worse. But yeah, man, I think it is pretty nice looking car in black. I wish I could probably put a lip on it at some stage, and maybe some of the later model headlights. But as you can see, it's got these massive ducts in the front there to draw or direct air to your brakes, which are pretty massive, I think. and they stop the car really well. As you can see, over the normal ISF, it's got wider fenders at the front, and it's got this awesome ass sort of area there, which probably extracts air or something. There's a debate about whether or not it does, but I'm just going to say it does. And then, as you can see, there's the large 6-pot, I think 350 or 360 mil rotors, and the front's BBS wheels, factory 8-inch front and 9-inch rear, which is a bit narrow. I think the next year they went up 0.5 inches front and back. And then that's the rear end. A lot of people sort of like the exhaust tip style, and a lot of people don't, so it's kind of one of those things where you either hate it or love it. For me, I think it sort of sets the car apart and looks pretty cool. And then obviously it's underneath you sort of hide the rest of the exhaust system, but I think it's pretty I think it's a pretty aggressive looking car, just in that sort of factory form, factory OEM plus. You can get like duck lips for it on the boot without you having fun. So yeah, I don't know, I love this car. It's a great daily. The interior is obviously, you know, for a 10-year-old car, this thing is looking very schmick still. And I might just quickly show you under the hood, guys. So there's the interior. I mean, the leather, the plastics, everything is still very, very fresh, and it doesn't feel like it's, you know, cheap and nasty like some of the BMW products or Mercedes products 10 years old. So there you go. Basically stock in here. I've got an air oil separator, which just sort of helps. I think when you're hammering these cars around, when you're beating on these cars, they like to sort of have a bit of oil go into your intake and whatnot. So this helps just alleviate some extra horsepower, I guess. And then this is where the airbox opens up secondary, but I've just sort of put a vacuum thing there to block it off, so it's always open, because I like noisy all the time. Don't we all, really? So then, yeah, I might just start it up for you guys on the outside. Let's put my foot on the pedal here. So as you can hear, got a pretty good growl and rumble from the straight piped X-Force exhaust. Give it a rev in park or whatever.